All right, Mr. Sipe, if you're here with us and you'd like to try to share your screen, we can get you up and make sure everything is working for you to share your slides. For anyone else who's having issues accessing the business process library.
Let me see if I can't get it going.
Oh, sorry, what was that, sir?
No, I'll go ahead and try and share it while you're talking.
Yeah, for students who are having trouble accessing the business process library at home, I will try to grab a PDF version of what you need from that site, but it's going to have to be tonight, probably during or after office hours, that I'll get that uploaded for you. Oh, Master Sergeant Watrous is on it. See, I love having another teacher in the studio with me. So we can get you that information, but I really, really, really encourage you to try to fix that issue and get access to that business process library. It is a super useful tool and it will help you do so much in your job with R&O. So I want you to get in that website. I want you to play around. I want you to look and see what is available to you. And these classes are meant to do that. So it looks like he posted it in the chat. So you have the scheduling work PDF and we'll post it on Canvas too. All right, the floor is yours, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, can you see me? Or can you see the brief?
And I can hear you.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and start. And okay, good to go. Okay, so my name is Chris Sipe. I am the R&O program manager at AFCEC, and I'm going to go ahead and dive in, and we're going to talk, talk operational R&O, operationalizing R&O, and we're going to kind of start off by focusing on the sub-amp manager and everything that the sub-amp really touches on and how much of a key role they have and how we can leverage a good mature sub-amp working group to try and help not just the B-Camp process, but the in-house process as well. And then the last part of the brief, we're going to talk about some of the tools that that Mr. Muller had kind of highlighted, and actually, you know, what to do with all that data that we've been accumulating and how to make it kind of work for us. So we'll go ahead and dive in. So the sub-amp manager, we kind of refer to it as a portfolio because of the sub-amp manager really is trying to touch the requirements of their particular area, regardless of what means that we're trying to execute. And so we'll go through these areas and kind of touch on where the sub-amp manager really can have an impact. So we'll start off with the obvious one, the sub-amp plans. This is, you know, when you think of sub-amp, you think of, well, it leads into the amp and then into the B-Camp and on up through the centralized project process, centralized funding. But if we really dig into it, the sub-amp manager, we're trying to look at an entire portfolio of assets, and we're looking at how can we affect those assets regardless of if we're using in-house capacity, we're using contract by requester, service contract, capital project, etc. We're looking at every way that we can try and impact that system. And obviously, with the lead-in that Mr. Muller gave, when you're talking in-house, there's a tie-in for the active scheduling, and how we gain back if we can maximize the capacity that we have inside or in-house. Also, with good data comes stronger justification when we're trying to follow that capital project process. So what is a portfolio without data? You know, you can't have data-driven decisions if you don't have good data, and the sub-amp manager really has a big role in that. You know, they're the touchstone for that system. They're the ones that are trying to make sure that the data entry, they can go in and QA and make sure that, you know, we're getting those resolution descriptions, we're using the right nomenclature. We've established nomenclature for it, and that we are getting those condition assessments. If they're reaching out, interacting with the shop, finding out, did we have a major replacement? And if we did, maybe we should update SMS on that so we have that key look, especially if we're trying to leverage some of those work planning projections. New assets. If we replace something, are we in that babying the car stage, or are we missing out and just going ahead and responding and not gaining some of that warranty capacity given back to the shops? The sub-amp manager has a key role. So one thing that ops is very good at is we're very good at responding to the fires, going in, putting them out, saving the day, and we go to the next fire. The hard part is taking that deliberate step back and trying to look at that bigger picture. If you have your sub-amp manager is armed, they've got a good data set that they're actively managing, that sub-amp manager can leverage that data set to take a look at a bigger picture and be able to provide feedback to the shop. Hey, did you know that you've been to this particular chiller 5 times in the past quarter? Maybe we need to do something more. Maybe you're losing more capacity than you need to if we just fix the problem. So it's supposed to be a two-way communication. The sub-amp manager should be able to provide value to the shop chief. They work for the R&O chief, but they're supposed to give some of that reach back and some of that bigger picture value back to the shop chief and provide recommendations, provide feedback, and get feedback from the shop chief. Hey, the shop chief says, it seems like building 101's really been eating our lunch. What's the data show? You should have that two-way communication. And as we'll get into it later, one of the great ways of doing that is that sub-amp working group. So we'll go on to the next slide. So again, we've already kind of hit on this. We're gathering and we're actually analyzing the data. Have we been to particular assets multiple times? Have we been to assets that under SMS should be in great shape? Maybe we ought to take a look at something in there. Are there assets that we've just been to over and over again that maybe we want to sit down with the shop chief and the engineer and say, are we really getting anything back from the PM on these assets? Taking aside any type of lawful requirements for doing PM that you can't touch, but in an instance of an asset where it's just literally one band-aid after another, where you don't have that restriction, that might be an opportunity to optimize some of that capacity back, which leads right into the PM data and the recurring validation. And the sub-amp manager also, they have the requirements in their particular system area. So let me start out with a hypothetical. So if anyone here can relate to submitting a work task or pre-next gen submitting a work order for an asset that's just been a pain, and then 3 years later you've forgotten about it and you get a call from a contractor saying, hey, come and get some O&M training on this newly installed or newly repaired asset, and you come in and you find out that it looks nothing like the original requirement that you submitted. Chances are that's because what happened is when we took that requirement, went through the capital project process, we threw it over the wall to CEN and forgot about it. There is impact. If you go to the BPL, there's an entire section that talks about how the sub-amp manager and just R&O in general does have some impact. Now you have to pick and choose what is the juice worth the squeeze. But if you do catch an issue, a maintenance issue, because that's the perspective from ops that you have, earlier on the process, it's immensely easier to make a change than it is later on. And when it's done, ops is charged with maintaining it regardless if you have room in the mechanical room to change the filter or not. So that's why you got to take a look at the requirements that are going the capital route, figure out the impact that those requirements have, and judge your engagement throughout the process and know how you can engage. So a great tool for the sub-amp manager is the SOG, the sub-amp working group. This is where you have all the smart minds in the same room, and if you can come armed with with the data and some things that may be popping out, you can actually leverage those minds around the table and not just use the SOG as a means to prep for the B camp. You can actually have a great deal of impact on the in-house side of things too. And we'll go into that. Okay. So one of the first areas that you can take a look at, and this is just kind of a recommended idea for how to format the SOG, is you take a look at your inventory conditions, your trends, and review what have you done? Where have you spent your capacity at? Where have you spent the materials at? Have you had any major repairs? And if you have, does the the recorded condition reflect that? Are you doing band-aid fixes? These types of things that you can look at, and then eventually they lead into whether or not maybe you can gain some optimization back. Maybe the PM juice isn't worth the squeeze if we're just going ahead and putting a duct tape on an item over and over. Work projections. We can take a look at what SMS is recommending for us. Does it match the work that we've been doing? This is an opportunity where in the sub-amp arena, you can take a look at that discretionary capacity over a little bit of longer term and say, hey, maybe here's some parking lot, major repair, in-house major repair, or, prime vendor type requirements that we can put against whatever capacity we have. You can go ahead and target some things like that. It's also an opportunity if you have some WRB approvals or recommendations for method of execution that you can take a look at. If you have a parking lot and you think, that's just going to exceed the capacity, then that's a great opportunity to go ahead and recommend it for the WRB and have the WRB take care of routing that. And you've got your troop training, your X plan, and of course the obvious B camp support. SMS status. So SMS is an ongoing requirement. The conditions of assets aren't stagnant. They do change over time, and the SOG is a great opportunity. We kind of touched on it a little bit earlier as, have we had any major changes? Have we captured those? And then just trying to get feedback from all the right parties in the same room. And PM, it's a great opportunity to take a look, since you do have that B camp tie-in, to take a look at the capital projects that are out there. Have they been funded? So not, we think we're going to get funding this year, but we honest to goodness have money against this project. It's going to get awarded. And that's a great opportunity to take a look at what systems are going to be affected and take a little bit of a risk management look at whether or not we need to continue PM up through when that contractor actually begins work on that facility. The answer may be yes, but you're taking that objective look to see maybe you can save capacity and maybe not. It's a good opportunity to take a look at what the work planning is projecting under SMS, and does the work task history really line up with what SMS is predicting for you? And if you do come up with some opportunities to optimize and gain some capacity back, how do you use it? So, and this, again, this ties directly into whether we have available labor, whether we can maximize it, and whether or not we've got requirements that that paint just isn't going to cover. How do we approach that? Again, you've got the right heads in the room to go ahead and make some recommendations rather than just putting it into the deferred category. So now we'll shift over into some of the toolbox tools that you can use. Now you've heard many times over about the BPL. Go ahead and put the plug in. What we're going to talk about is covered in the BPL, and you should be able to reach back or reach any of us at the at AFCEC, and we'll go ahead and give you the support that you need. So we've hit upon, and I'm sure you've had it throughout the week on data. You know, you get it from two main sources, your SMS and your next gen IT data. What you want to do is to be able to not treat those as simply separate. How do we work with them together? I'm going to go over a couple of options. Mr. Muller already hit on the Tableau one. There's another one that I'll cover briefly as well, the data merge, which is also under the BPL. And how do you use them? They look really nice, but what do you do with them? And so we'll kind of jump into that. So the data merge, we'll start off with that, is basically, in very simplistic terms, it takes a couple of standardized reports, one from Builder and one from NextGen. We merge them together, add some columns to try and help group different areas to where we can kind of drill down and focus in, and then we put it into a pivot table. And then based on sorting and filtering the pivot table, we can come up with some areas that maybe don't look quite right, or maybe that kind of shout that we need to do something. You basically are able to utilize those two data sources together. And so what does that really mean? So kind of going along with the keep it simple scenario, you take a look at your BCI. So what do we think the condition is? Is it in good shape? Is it in bad shape? Since we have MDI populated, we don't have TMDI. You take a look at the MDI. Is it important? And then we take a look at the capacity that has been going against it. And here are some general scenarios. They're covered in much more detail on the BPL, but basically we'll go through a couple of them. And it's the purpose of these is not to say, if you see this, then do this. It's basically, you've got all this data and maybe some things stick out that maybe we need to focus on. So for instance, the first one, a facility is supposed to be in great shape. It's super important, but we've been there a lot. We've been there a lot and we spent a lot of money on it. And the question is, why? If it's in good shape, why are we spending so much time on it? So that's well, maybe we should go take a look at that. The second one, that would make sense. It's important, it's in good shape, and we haven't spent a lot of capacity or money on it. Okay, maybe not an issue. The third one, it's in good shape, but it's not really important, yet we've been there a lot of times. So we're spending a lot of capacity. What are we getting on for return on investment? If it's got a low MDI, it's probably not going to be a great sell for a capital project. However, if you have the data to back up the capacity that you've been spending on that low priority facility, you have some hard data to go back and maybe not change the answer, but influence the conversation or inform it as to, here's all the capacity that we could be using on a higher priority if we were able to actually fix what was really wrong. And the answer may be divestment, but either way, you inform the conversation utilizing the data. Let's see. Um, you know, suppose, let's see, we've got a, a facility that's in good condition. It's not very important, but we haven't spent that much capacity on it. Okay, no problem. Seems like we're in good shape. Um, we have a facility that's supposed to be in pretty bad condition, but it's pretty important, and we spend a lot of capacity on it. Yep, that makes sense. However, what would lead from that is, do we have something? Are we fixing the problem? Have we fixed it? And if we haven't, do we have something in the hopper to try and correct that and get that BCI back to where it needs to be? We have a facility that's in bad condition, but it's important, but we really haven't been there and had to do much on it. Yeah, that, what's the story? This could be a number of things. It could be that, maybe it's just not an issue, or maybe we went ahead and corrected the issue, but we didn't update the BCI or the condition indexes. And supposedly, a building that's in bad shape, but it's not important, yet we've been there a lot. Again, same thing. You've got some data to justify either we just let it run to failure, or we actually go ahead and put the investment towards trying to fix it so we can spend our resources on something higher priority. And then finally, it's in bad shape. It's not that important. We don't spend much time on it. That's a great question for the SOG to say, are we not spending much capacity on it because we're doing PM, or do we need to do PM on it because it's not that important? So these are the data, as we put it together, is meant to kind of trigger these conversations and help focus on some of the important trees as opposed to that really huge forest of data. So here's an example. The next few slides are kind of single examples out of the data merge where we kind of found some of these scenarios. So for instance, this particular one, the building's important. It should be in pretty good condition. We've spent quite a bit of labor on it, and but we haven't spent any materials. So this could suggest a couple of things. One, we're going out and doing Band-Aids on something that should be in good condition. Or two, maybe we aren't capturing those material costs in next gen. Here's a facility that it's not important, it's in bad shape, but we haven't been there that much. This might be a good one to talk about managing through corrective maintenance and save some capacity on preventive maintenance. Another one, we've got a facility that's in bad shape and it's not very important, but we've been there quite a bit. This is one where we use that data, we have some of that hard data, and we can inform whatever process is out there, whether if we are trying to fix the problem or divest the problem. We've got data to back that up with now. So Mr. Mueller had talked about the Tableau dashboard, so we'll go into that. But before we do, one other thing is, so we use builder work planning. If we just create a pivot table and some filters, we can kind of drill down based on some of those buildings that we highlighted before and compare what's work planning say compared to what next gen is saying. And we'll kind of go into that here in the next few slides as we take a look at some of those Tableau examples as well. Same process, same scenarios, just a different tool. So here's an example of that. The Tableau dashboard, we've got, what is it, building 1060, I believe. It's pretty important. The MDI is high. We've had quite a bit of labor put into that facility. We don't have any material costs. So that's an immediate, why don't we have material costs? When you highlight the facility, it's going to show you all of the system condition indexes. So you can take a look and see if the work that's being done really is reflective of a particular system or if it's the building as a whole. On the bottom, you have the either the cost or the capacity. You can change the filter by quarter. And so in this one, you can take a look and you can see that looks like most of the capacity was used at least a year or two ago. So was the issue resolved? And you can kind of take a look and compare that to the SMS, see what the work is, and take a look at your system index. Another one, you've got a facility, building 100, looks like it's pretty important. You've had quite a bit of labor put into it, not as much material, but you do have material costs captured. So that would suggest that maybe you're going out and you're, resetting breakers, basically you're putting Band-Aids on it. Looks like the condition has been in pretty bad shape, and especially it looks like electrical's in the worst condition, but it looks like a majority of your man hours have been spent, if you look on the right side here, have been spent in the HVAC. And so it looks like HVAC is definitely in the amber range. And if you take a look down here, it looks like you've got quite a bit of it. Majority of your investment has been recent. So maybe something has been going bad recently, and maybe we need to try and come up with that complete fix. And if we take a look in the work planning, you can see that under building 100, it looks like there's quite a few recommendations under the HVAC side. And so we can take a look at the work task history and see if those recommendations are lining up with what work planning is suggesting. We can use it to inform each other. And we can use that to craft whatever the sub-amp program is that we're trying to get as far as replacements and major repairs. I think this is our last example. We have another important facility. We've got a lot of materials on it. Not so much we've got a roughly equivalent level of material versus labor, which means we've been doing some replacements. Should that have impacted some of those condition ratings? Once we go back and capture whether or not something's in a better condition. Looks like we've had pretty much investment recently too. And so did we fix the problem? Just a good question. And let's compare it to work planning. It looks like we've got across the facility a variety of recommendations for a fairly significant amount of investment. And again, we can compare that to the work that we have done and try and use it to inform what we're going for in the AMP process. So I think that pretty much covers it. Hopefully that wasn't too bad. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sipe. Students, what questions do you have? I know you saw a lot of tools. I hear somebody's got a hot mic. Would you like to join? Nope, just an accident. That's okay. I know you saw those pivot tables that Mr. Sipe was showing us. That is the possibility of ranges that you can get with Excel and what you can do with the data that you are collecting every single day. We have a question. What is Tableau? Mr. Sipe, do you want to explain more about Tableau and the capabilities that Tableau gives us in R&O?
Well, Tableau is a platform where we have the innovation center at the Air Force levels be able to pull data from multiple data sources and use it to be graphically depicted on this Tableau platform. It allows you a lot of capability to filter down, to sort, to gain. It's basically meant to take data and allow you to leverage it and visibly depict it where it's a little easier to try and work with. What I showed you was just one particular dashboard. They've got quite a few that are out there.
Yeah, Tableau is data visualization database. So it's a database that's able to link to Builder. We manually push data from Builder to Tableau. We manually grab next gen IT data and our work management data. We grab real property data. It actually extends beyond CE, and it pulls personnel data and manpower data, and all of this data is basically warehoused in an online platform called Tableau. And Tableau allows us to, like Mr. Seif said, filter and sort and combine our data in a way that allows us to visually see trends and do predictions and predictive modeling with Tableau. It is a free, Captain Weber talked about this earlier in his week's presentations as well. If you want access to Tableau, you can get it for free. I think he showed you how to do that maybe. But you can just sign up, get access, and you can view the dashboards that AFCEC are building for things like facilities, installation, health assessment dashboards, and things like that. It's an asset management tool, short and long-term planning. Yep, that's great. Captain Jordan, are you using Tableau at your base?
No, we are not. I've been hoping to push. So my civilian counterpart, he's been all about VAST since I got here, and so he's been trying to push that. I think if I had more time here before I PCS, I probably would have tried to say, hey, I think we need to go the Tableau route rather than the VAST route. But yeah, I'm kind of on my way out, and maybe I can pass it on to our lieutenant to maybe convince him otherwise.
Okay, good. That's okay. Mr. Mueller has a really great point that he says next gen IT work task history data is pulled quarterly into Tableau. So the best part about Tableau that I think is that AFCEC and IMSC can set up the way that the data is filtered and cleaned in a standardized manner so that every time they pull the data in, it's cleaned the exact same way, meaning that it's getting rid of all of the facilities that are demoed, or it can have flags that say, I want to get rid of data from equipment that is installed 2 years before the facility was built. And so there's a way to automate that process for us so that when we're looking at data, we know it's standard across the enterprise, and we know that it's cleaned in a process that is repeatable, which is really important, because if you pull your data and change the way that you clean it up every single time, you're going to come up with different answers. I am also, do not use VAST. I'm not a big fan of VAST. It's basically, VAST is an access database, correct, Master Watchers? It's built on Access, which is very similar to Tableau in the fact that it's a database that you can manipulate and predict trends and collect information in a spreadsheet kind of manner, but Tableau has the visualization tools that VAST does not have. And it basically allows you to combine data in the same manner, just it has dashboards already built into it. So if you can get access to Tableau, I would recommend Tableau over VAST. But Mr. Mueller, you're still on the line, sir. If you want to come on and talk more about that, please do.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's easier than typing. Yeah, there's a huge number of Tableau dashboards on the dashboard server. It's part of the data laboratory environment that we have posted up there. And most of these enterprise dashboards, the whole intent was to just allow you to use a standard tool. And so as Captain DePalmer was just saying, we've done kind of the yeoman's work for you specific to the next gen history by already selecting the fields, working with the data cleanup processes. And once a quarter, we do the posting of the updates. So you don't have to literally lift a finger other than to make sure you get that viewer license. You don't actually have to download software to use those kinds of dashboards. Just, get the viewer license, bookmark that, make that one of your absolute go-to favorites. I'm super jazzed by the next gen work history tool, because it's an awesome customer service tool for you as well. You could look, one of the things that Chris didn't show, because of course it wasn't maybe focused that way, is you can filter it by customer. And you can say, all right, Mr. Customer, you don't think you're getting service from us? Now, you might want to do this before you go live with them. And you could say, hey, I'm going to bring up this data. Look at the emergencies. Look at all the investment we've made in your facilities. We are doing as much as we can. And if you don't like it, tell the BCE and the wing commander, you're right. They need more plumbers. They need more electricians. Be willing to help fund some projects maybe. So it's really cool. Yep, we've got the link there to the Tableau Data Lab. But you do have to go through it. It's a real quick process to get your one-time sort of viewer license. But as several mentioned, there are additional opportunities to download it and actually use the tool. I'll just let you know that if you get a little bit frightened by Excel and pivot tables, you might want to ease into Tableau. It's not that easy to use, but it is extremely powerful. And again, that's why we're trying to make those tools just available to you. There's quite a few cool ones. I don't know if you saw those on the builder side, but they have data confidence tools and other things. So take advantage of them.
Yes, sir. I am 100% with you. For other students, I mean, I've mentioned it before, this part of this class. It's something that the CE enterprise and what CE in general is asking us to do more of is data analytics. And I know a lot of us come in and we have our AFSC and we don't have training in data science and data analytics, but we want you to be critical thinkers and stewards of data. And these kind of classes are a very basic introduction as to how we do that and how we're doing that right now. And we're looking at adding more opportunities to learn about data analytics here at AFIT. So keep up with us if you're looking for more opportunities. I know for 3E6s, it is part of your CFETPs on how to use pivot tables, how to do these critical thinking tasks with data. So these are the tools that you have available to you and how you can use it in R&O. It can be a little overwhelming. We have a lot of tools. We have a lot of tools available to us. We have to learn a lot of systems. It's a tough job to be a civil engineer in the Air Force, but I know, some of the best things that you can do, you can network with your career field and find other people and mentors who are doing really well at this. You can network with the experts here at AFIT. You can always reach back to us if you have more questions or want to learn more. You can reach back to the experts at AFCEC who build these tools for us and have them, talk to them if you're looking for processes that you want to improve in the tools that they're creating, or man, I really wish I could filter by this. Is there a way you can make that tool do that next time? Because I want to be able to do this, and this is why this is valuable to me. Networking within our career field is a huge opportunity to learn how to do more. What are you doing to add data analytics to civilian PDs? Yeah, I don't have the answer to that one. That's a good question. All right, anything else? Yeah, your R&O OIC, especially a lot of our young junior officers, just went through an engineering school to get their technical degree, so they should be pretty tech savvy on this stuff. Granted, I think everyone can always improve, but they are also a good resource for you. Lieutenant Miller. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Your airmen are now charged with coming to you for these kind of data analytics stuff. All right, well, we're done a little bit early, so we're still going to come back at noon for your lunch break. For everyone on your lunch break, I updated the assignment number 4 to include the PDF of the scheduling stuff that Master Sergeant Watrous posted, so it's in the details section. I charge you with, don't forget to be filling out your surveys for each of the day's lessons. You can go back into yesterday's if you haven't done it yet and please, provide us feedback on how we can make this course better for you. And am I missing anything else? And if you want to go ahead and get your homework open and start it and start looking at the questions and stuff, your lunch break is a great time to do that. So we will see you all back here at noon for Mr. Jim Martin and R&O maturity levels.